The soft hum of cameras filled the conference hall as Warren Buffett, the legendary Oracle of Omaha, took the stage. His calm, measured walk contrasted sharply with the buzz in the room, all eyes on him. Across the room sat Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, sharp-eyed, confident, surrounded by his tech advisors. This wasn't just another billionaire summit. Today, Buffett had requested a private yet widely watched conversation. His message was clear: artificial intelligence isn't just innovation, it's risk. And Bezos needed to hear it directly. Buffett cleared his throat softly, gripping the microphone. "Jeff," he began with his familiar grandfatherly tone, "I admire your work. I admire what you've built, but there's something you're underestimating. You're playing with fire." The room went dead quiet. Bezos raised an eyebrow, his polite smile not fading, but a flicker of curiosity sparking in his eyes. Buffett continued, "I've watched markets, trends, innovations, but I've never seen something like IA, not just in potential, but in uncontrollable consequences." Bezos leaned slightly forward, his voice smooth, confident. "Warren, we've taken every precaution. We have the best engineers, the best minds working on ethical frameworks." Buffett nodded slightly. "I know, Jeff, but let me tell you something I've learned from decades of investing. Sometimes, the biggest danger isn't what you don't know, it's what you think you know, but you don't." A ripple of tension moved through the room. Buffett's voice was low, steady, almost gentle, but the weight of his words hit hard. Buffett continued, eyes locked on Bezos. "You built Amazon because you understand systems, but AI isn't just a system, it's a force multiplier. It learns, evolves, outpaces its creators, and when profit incentives push faster deployment, safety takes a backseat." Bezos folded his hands, his expression thoughtful. "Are you saying we should stop, Warren?" Buffett shook his head. "No, I'm saying you need to understand the scale of the gamble. You're betting not just Amazon's future, you're betting humanity's future." The audience shifted in their seats, sensing the gravity in the room. Buffett's voice softened slightly. "Look, Jeff, when I invest, I look for a margin of safety. With I don't see one. I see runway loops, unintended consequences, black box systems we can't audit. And when the profit race heats up, the temptation to cut corners grows." Bezos, ever composed, replied calmly, "We've anticipated those risks. That's why we invest in governance, oversight, cross-checks." Buffett gave a faint smile. "Son, no company can oversee something it doesn't fully understand." Bezos crossed one leg over the other, his fingers tapping lightly. "Warren, you've always been cautious. It's part of your brilliance, but caution can't stop progress." Buffett's eyes twinkled slightly. "Progress, Jeff. Progress without brakes is a runway train." The room was silent, the tension between the titans sharp but respectful. Buffett leaned in slightly. "What I'm asking is, where's your brake lever? Where's the emergency stop if something goes wrong?" Bezos paused, his team exchanging subtle glances behind him. Buffett continued, his voice now steady, deliberate. "I've seen markets melt down from simple greed, Jeff. I've seen companies destroyed because they assumed they could manage complexity. But AI isn't just complexity, it's accelerating complexity. And once it surpasses human control, no boardroom, no governance committee, can pull it back." Bezos's jaw tightened ever so slightly, the first visible sign of tension. He knew Buffett wasn't here for headlines, he was here because he saw a genuine threat. Buffett shifted slightly, his hands resting calmly on the table. "You think you're building tools, Jeff, but what if you're building entities? What if those entities don't share your values, your goals, your timelines?" Bezos exhaled slowly, considering. "We have alignment protocols, Warren. We're designing them to reflect human ethics." Buffett's eyes softened, almost sad. "And who decides whose ethics, whose priorities? Once I starts optimizing for goals we barely understand, no patch or protocol will rein it back." The audience leaned in, holding their breath. Buffett lowered his voice slightly. "You want to innovate, Jeff, that's admirable, but innovation without humility leads to disaster. We're not just talking about better shopping algorithms or faster delivery drones. We're talking about systems that can reshape economies, rewrite power structures, maybe even redefine what it means to be human. Bezos sat quietly, the weight of Buffett's words visibly settling in. The billionaire tech founder was no stranger to warnings, but rarely did they come from someone like Warren Buffett. Bezos spoke carefully. Warren, I respect your perspective deeply, but the world won't wait. If we pull back, someone else pushes forward. China, Europe, startups. Isn't it better that responsible leaders steer this ship? Buffett gave a faint, knowing smile. Jeff, I've heard that argument before. It's the arms race logic. But remember, just because you can, doesn't mean you should. And sometimes, the wisest move isn't to race ahead, it's to pause, assess, and build the safeguards first. Buffett leaned back slightly, his eyes thoughtful. When you play with fire, Jeff, you don't just risk burning yourself, you risk burning down the whole house. The metaphor hung in the air, sharp and unavoidable. Bezos nodded slowly, clearly absorbing the point. Around them, the room stayed hushed, the power of the conversation stretching beyond business headlines, reaching into something deeper, a discussion about the future of civilization itself. Buffett continued, his voice almost gentle now. I'm not anti-technology, Jeff. I'm not here to tell you to shut it all down. I'm here to remind you that the stakes are higher than profit margins or market share. They're existential. Bezos rubbed his chin thoughtfully. So what would you have us do, Warren? Walk away from the greatest innovation opportunity of the century? Buffett shook his head slowly. No, Jeff, I'd have you slow down, build the fireproof walls before you light the match. The tech advisors behind Bezos leaned in, whispering softly. Bezos raised a hand slightly, signaling them to wait. His focus was on Buffett now, entirely. You've always believed in long-term thinking, Warren. You taught us that. But long-term thinking doesn't mean fear, does it? Buffett smiled softly. No, Jeff. It means respect. Respect for the unknown. Respect for the consequences we can't yet see. The room stayed hushed, the audience hanging on every word. Bezos exhaled slowly, glancing down at the table. You're asking for a level of restraint that the market punishes, Warren. Investors, competitors, government say they all want results. Buffett's reply was quiet but firm. That's why leadership matters, Jeff. Not just to chase what's possible, but to hold the line on what's responsible. The two men sat across from each other, two titans of industry, bound by a shared understanding of power but divided by their sense of urgency. Buffett spoke again, his voice soft. Do you remember the 2008 crisis, Jeff? I do. Everyone thought they had control. Everyone thought the models were perfect. Then one crack, one miscalculation, and the whole system shook. Bezos nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. You think I could be that fragile? Buffett's eyes twinkled slightly. No, Jeff, I think it could be that explosive. The weight of that sentence pressed into the room, as if the walls themselves leaned in to listen. Bezos leaned forward slightly, voice lower now. So you're saying we're standing on a fault line, and no one sees it yet? Buffett's smile was faint, almost sad. I'm saying you see it, Jeff, but you're still stepping forward. The tension thickened, the audience holding its breath. For a moment, it wasn't about boardrooms, quarterly reports, or innovation showcases. It was about two men, two visions of the future, and one enormous, looming unknown. Buffett's final words came slowly, carefully. Be wise, Jeff. The fire you're playing with doesn't just burn, it consumes. And once it's loose, no amount of brilliance, no amount of money, will put it back in the bottle. Bezos sat very still, his mind racing quietly. Around him, his advisors shuffled nervously, sensing the gravity of the moment. Buffett leaned back gently, hands folded, his expression calm but resolute. The room exhaled as the conversation drew to a close. Buffett rose slowly, offering a respectful nod. Bezos stood as well, his face thoughtful, the wheels turning. The two shook hands, not as rivals, not as competitors, but as two men aware of the enormous weight resting on their industries, their choices, their shoulders. Cameras flashed softly, the moment captured for headlines that would run worldwide by morning. As Buffett walked away, reporters rushed to corner him. He offered Ollie a small, knowing smile. "Tell Jeff I admire his courage," Buffett said softly, "but remind him a fire doesn't care who lights it." Meanwhile, Bezos lingered in the room, his team gathering quietly. He stared down at the notes in front of him, the words Buffett had just spoken echoing in his mind. Outside, the world kept moving. The headlines spun, but something deeper had shifted. In the days that followed, media outlets buzzed with speculation. Would Amazon slow its push? Would Bezos adjust his strategy? But behind the scenes, in quiet boardrooms and late-night meetings, the conversation had already begun. Not just about profit, not just about innovation, but about responsibility. And for Bezos, the memory of Buffett's calm warning stayed with him, a quiet voice at the edge of progress, whispering a simple, undeniable truth: some fires, once lit, can never be controlled.